Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Romeo Murovhi from the Agricultural Research Council in Liverpool. I just want to talk about the maximizing the value of macadamia husk. But before I go into that, there is one confession that I want to make. I am a die-hard fan for macadamia. I love the nut in such a way that I cannot go a day without having them. Thank you. When the macadamia production was commercialized way back in the 1960s, very little was known about the macadamia husk. A lot of attention was paid to the nuts themselves. However, as time goes on, innovative farmers start to add value on the macadamia husk. That is when they use macadamia husk for mulching. Some use it for feeding the animals, while others use it as fuel for making fire. Currently, the macadamia industry here in South Africa, it produces not less than 50,000 tons of macadamia husk every year. I know that this is an estimation. It can be more than that. And there is a clear evidence all over the places that our innovative farmers are still keeping on add value on that macadamia husk. Majority of farmers nowadays are subjecting this macadamia husk into compost. Some are doing it for generating profit, while others are doing it to supply nutrients to their soils. However, regardless that good innovative, we are not yet in a position to can tell how much of this macadamia compost can we apply on macadamia orchard. Still, we are in a position where we cannot tell the effects of this macadamia husk on soil properties. Still, we cannot tell the effect of this macadamia husk compost on the quality and yield of nuts. So this study or this investigation was initiated in order to close that gap so that as South Africans, we can have our own data. The reason why I'm saying that is that the only information regarding macadamia husk that we have scientifically is a research which was conducted in Australia. So I have put this picture here of macadamia, which is still inside the shells. The reason for me to do that is that it might sound like a joke. There are still people who are still confusing macadamia husk and macadamia shells. So sometimes it's good to show the picture so that when I talk, you have an idea of what am I talking about. So when we prepared this presentation, we got a very strong order from area that we need to focus on the aspects that will benefit the industry. So I'm not going to dwell much on the protocols of the research, but the research is being conducted at the ARCTSC research farm in Liverpool on a Beaumont cultivar, where I'm testing for it's 4 treatments. One is control, and the other one is where I've applied 4 tons of this macadamia husk, 8 tons up to 12 tons per hectare. So the research results, I have concentrated on few parameters: the yield, the quality parameters, the phenological parameters, the soil biological properties, and the soil physical properties. So the macadamia nut yield analysis, there was a significant difference amongst the treatment, whereby all the trees that received that received 12 tons of macadamia compost per hectare resulted in high yield. The same thing also applies on the amount or the mass of the macadamia husk that we have got, indicating that applying macadamia husk compost on the macadamia trees can have a positive effect, both in terms of yield and the amount of husk that one can produce. So that can be traced back to the amount of nutrients that are locked inside the macadamia husk. Once they decomposed, they release that nutrients which becomes available for the plants. This figure, this graph, it just is alluding what I was trying to explain. I have just put it here so that people can just be able to see which one is higher and which one is lower. Generally, you can see that the yellow one, it represents a treatment where I've applied 12 tons of macadamia per hectare. And you can see that it is dominating in all the aspects. The first one is the nut in husk, and then the second one is nut in shells. The last one is the amount of husk. So the control is always producing the least numbers. When it comes to the quality, yes, I've analyzed a lot of parameters, but I've just selected the few that I think are most important. Still in that one, you can see that where we have applied macadamia compost, there is a significant difference when you compare them with the control. By the way, control, this is where I didn't apply anything. The same applies to the total unsound kernel, the early insect damage, and the late insect damage, even in the number of immature nut. Then coming to the soil biological properties. When I initiated this project, my main focus was in the soil biological properties, because somehow I've realized that this is one of the parameters, the soil parameters that we tend to ignore, yet it plays a very crucial role. We cannot have good plants if we don't have good or healthy soil. So farming starting on soil, we need to make sure that we have healthy soil so that we can have a good quality trees. So in this one, I've measured the soil organic carbon, the particulate organic matter, the microbial biomass carbon, and the microbial biomass nitrogen. Checking on this graph, you can see that the first one, the soil organic carbon, where I've applied 12 tons of macadamia per hectare, it takes a lead. There is a big difference when you compare it to the control. Still, coming to the microbial nitrogen, although the difference was not that big, but it was significant. The same thing applies to the microbial biomass carbon and the particulate organic matter. The soil physical properties. This one, there was a difficult. Soil physical properties are very stable. They don't just react on a minor changes. What I'm trying to say is that when you work with soil physical properties, in order to see the effective of the treatments that you might be giving, it needs time. However, from what I was analyzing, only the soil water content gave me a good result. This was expressed in terms of the gravimetric water content and the volumetric water content. Then soil amended with high amount of compost tend to produce the high value of for both gravimetric water content and the volumetric water content. However, the soil bulk density, just like its other counterpart, remained the same. There was no change. That is why I'm saying that if you are working with the physical properties of the soil, then you need to have time. Otherwise, you cannot get the results. So when I was busy with my investigation, I received a request from the SAMAC Research and Development Committee to also check on the phenological parameters of these plants, of macadamia, to see if whether these phenological parameters are responding to my treatment. Although it was another hard work, then I have to obey. In this one, I checked the leaf flash and the number of water shoots, the size of nuts at a certain period, and the nut drop. So the control treatment resulted in the least amount of new flash, which means where I didn't apply the macadamia husk, the production or the development of leaf flash was very slow as compared to where I have applied this macadamia compost. The highest number of nut drop was also observed under control. So, but there is something that I want to emphasize on these phenological parameters. Because now the trial is still going on, I cannot boldly stand here in front of you and say applying macadamia compost can have a positive effect on the phenological parameters of the plants. I think this is something that needs a separate investigation so that at the end of the day we'll be able to come with a concrete result that we can share with the people. So this is just a table which is emphasizing that what I was saying about the phenological parameters. So now, the big question, how does this project benefit the industry or benefit the growers? By turning this macadamia husk into compost, farmers can make profit. Because nowadays, it looks like everyone now is turning a turn. Our farmers have now started to realize the importance of making our soil healthy. Then they are applying compost, not to substitute the fertilizer, the chemical fertilizers. We cannot. We are not yet in the position where we can say we can substitute fertilizers with a compost. Then the two must complement each other, goes hand in hand. So they are using this. However, some of the people are making this compost to generate income, and this has a lot of benefits. Using compost will also reduce the amount of chemicals that we are using, which in turn will lead to less pollution. And at the end of the day, we tend to have a healthy environment. So by applying this compost, as I've indicated, that the results that I have got when I measured the gravitational water content and the volumetric water content were positive. This comes to tell us that when you apply this macadamia husk compost, you tend to have a good soil that can hold water for a long time. which is a good benefit to the farmers, especially those who irrigate their trees. Compost also enhances the nut quality. You have seen from the results that I've presented that some of the parameters like the total kernel recovery was higher on the tree where I've applied the macadamia compost. Another benefit, which is not yet concluded, is that at the end of this study, or one of the major objectives of this study, is to come out with a standard guideline that can be used by the farmer who will be applying this macadamia husk. They will be in a position to know that if I want to apply macadamia husk on my trees, this is how much that I'm going to apply. But there is something that I have realized. In order to come out with this guideline, then it will need a serious intervention by those who are experts in fertilizers. So please, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I will knock at your doors so that we can put our heads together with my results to come out with a standard guidelines for the sake of our farmers. I just want to end my presentation by acknowledging the following organization: the SAMAC for funding this project and for organizing an industry day of this magnitude. The ARC, which is my employer, for allowing me to do this investigation in their place. I just want to take my hat off for the Royal Macadamia in Livubu by allowing us to analyze the quality of the nuts in their factory with no cost at all. They even go to an extent where they issue a certificate of excellence to my students. Last but not least, I just want to say thanks to the University of Venda who provided me with a student. There is a master's student by the name of Maimu Silence who is working in this project. Before I conclude, it will be unjust for me if I don't say thanks to you, to all of you who are here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Romeo. I think it's important to maybe just quickly clarify what the composition of that compost was. So what was the percentage of the husks in the compost mixture?
Okay. Initially, when I started, I wanted to use macadamia alone. But after this working hard research and development team for SAMAC advised me to include some other amendments. So it's macadamia husk compost plus the pine bark and plus the wood chips in a ratio of 35:35:30. This 30% is for macadamia husk. The reason being that if I can only concentrate on the macadamia husk only, then I don't think it cannot be feasible because we don't have a lot of that macadamia husk. Even if we have them, but they are in different places.
Thanks, Romeo. Any other questions?
Hi, Romeo. Thank you. I just want to know, with your soil biological properties, have you considered using nematodes as indicators in the differences in concentrations?
To
and
use
whether
what?
or not it works? Nematodes.
The what?
Nematodes.
No.
Because so nematodes are a very good indicator of biological a very good biological indicator, and they react in very short time periods. So it might be a good idea to look at that, and you're welcome to contact me. I'm also from the ARC.
Okay, thank you. I didn't consider that.
Oh, thanks. I just want to ask, did you do an analysis before to check what nutrient content of the husk is? Like the
Yes,
nitrogen, the carbon? Did you do that?
Yes, that was my first step. In fact, this project is consisted of 2 phases. The first one is composting, to make the compost itself. Because, I mean, you cannot go all out and say, I'm applying this without knowing the nutrient concentration of that particular substance. Yes, I did.
Okay, thanks.
Romeo, maybe you did say it in the beginning and I missed it. What was the time span between the application of the compost before the harvest that you reported on?
What can you please repeat, Hank?
Sorry, what was the time span between applying the compost to the trees and the harvest that you reported on?
And the harvest.
So long, how long before the harvest was the compost applied?
No, we applied the compost after harvesting.
Okay, and then you reported on you reported on the increase in the yield. Was that on the following crop after applying the compost?
Yeah, the following crop after planting.
So
in fact, we apply in June, no, in August 2020 when we started the project, after harvesting. And then we wait the following year, then we harvest and then we apply again.
Okay, so basically about 12 months from applying.
From harvesting to application.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Hank.